Hello and welcome to another episode of the Green Dragon Gaming Club. Um, without us, they never feel like winners, and without them, we couldn't look so good. There you go, Mark. Threw that one in for you. I'm not Mark. I am Dan. In case that wasn't already evident. Um, so, for those who didn't know, I'm a member of the Green Dragon Gaming Club. I have a shirt and everything to prove it. And I know I haven't posted much to my own YouTube channel of late, but that's mostly because most of the games that I've been playing, um, Mark or one of my other opponents has been taking pictures and putting up a battle report on this channel anyway. So, excuse me, it seems kind of redundant. And I think really going forward, I'll probably be putting any content that I make on this channel because Mark has both graciously and foolishly given me access to this channel. So there's really no reason not to. I guess to continue with the standard introduction, we are a gaming group out of Westchester, Pennsylvania, always looking for like minded people. And by like minded, I mean, I don't know, not a jerk. That's pretty much it. We're a pretty competitive group, and by competitive I mean a couple of us are very good at the game, and otherwise we're very relaxed. So yeah, if you're chill, hit us up. Again, southeastern Pennsylvania. Uh, we've even had people as far north. I think it was Allentown, Pottstown, come down and play with us. Jersey, Maryland, Delaware. We set up gaming night once a week. Just reach out to us either through the YouTube channel here or ninthage.com, and we'll have you come on by. We got plenty of tables, and by which I mean Mark has plenty of tables, tons of terrain, and even armies. So if you're just thinking about getting into the game and don't really have anything of your own, we will happily loan you an army. So tonight's episode will be featuring my Vermin of Sonnstahl versus Brett's Ogre Khans. Now, Brett's Ogre Khans, I'm sure you've seen elsewhere on this channel. On my channel, you may remember them from a couple months ago against an Equitane list that I threw together. So this will be his first game against my Vermin, and my first game with my Vermin against his Ogres. Now, the size of the game, 4,500 points. We had been playing and have been playing 6,000 point games in anticipation for Brawler Bash in March. There's another tournament coming up before that at the end of February. And a couple of us are thinking about going down. I'm still not sure if I'll be able to attend. It's another 2-day tournament, and in my line of work, it's very difficult to get the last weekend of the month off. And I've already done that for March, so I'm not expecting I'll be able to do it 2 months in a row. So I'm not sure about whether or not I'll be able to go. But it also means that because this tournament in February is 4,500 points, that we as a group will be probably alternating for the next couple of weeks at least between 6,000 points for Brawler Bash prep and 4,500 points for the Baltimore tournament prep. So that's what this is, the latter of those two. 4,500 points. The deployment type was in circle, and secondary objective, which it seems like we never forget to forget, is capture the flags. So we rolled it up, capture the flags, and then promptly forgot that was our secondary objective. So, and then you have a nice picture here of a rat ogre, which seemed appropriate with rats fighting ogres. I don't know, made sense in my head. It's late. The Vermin of Sonnstahl. Uh, this list is funny because I made it the day of the game, so yesterday. So for the record, this is I think the first game I've ever done a battle report for, where I'm doing the report the day after the game. It seems like every other battle report I've done was done, a week, if not 2 weeks after the game actually took place. It was pretty darn hard at times to remember what happened, but this game's fresh on my mind. So as I was saying, I made this game yesterday. This game two, but I made this list yesterday, and it's in effect just a pared down version of my 6,000 point list. So I didn't build this from the ground up. I just deleted points out of my 6,000 point list, and this is what was left. That was a mistake to do it that way. And anyone else who's hopping back and forth between a large point army and a lower point army, so even 4,500 points down to maybe a warband style, 2,000 point list or something, I very strongly recommend you build from the ground up. The reason is because the better players among you will very quickly notice from this list that it's missing chaff. And I didn't even think about that when I was taking stuff out. So what you're left with in this list is sort of this meat and potatoes, couple of blocks and expensive toys and characters, of course. But without any kind of chaff, you just have these big aircraft carriers of blocks to maneuver around and hope that your opponent doesn't outplay. Uh, and that it's readily apparent if you're building the list from 0 points to 4,500 points. It's less obvious when you're just taking stuff out. So, lesson learned there. The list otherwise, though, as I mentioned, is really just a light version of my 6,000 point list. So I've got a prelate. He's got leadership 9, a rerollable 1-up armor save. My marshal, he's got a 2-up armor save. He's the BSB, and he's got a great weapon. I prefer him with a 1-up armor save and the hero's sword. I just like that build a lot more. My wizard, Path of Alchemy. He's not a master, and he only knows 3 spells out of alchemy because he, with the extra 50 points, has the Ring of Fire, which I think is a pretty good combo with alchemy. 2 big blocks of 48 halberdiers, one of which has the flaming banner. And if it's not evident from this list, in my last couple of games, I've discovered just how powerful the combination of flaming banner, flaming attacks, Ring of Fire, the prelate being able to grant flaming attacks to the unit he's with, as a combination with the lore attribute or path attribute from alchemy. So you'll see a lot of that, sort of that play between flaming attacks and flammable throughout this army. And I'm sure everyone else and their mom is doing the same thing, but I've just discovered it, so I'm thrilled. 15 militia. I take 2 units of 10 militia as chaff in my bigger list. In this list, it's a bunker, so I don't even use it as chaff. A big unit of 40 Imperial Guard, which I love. I don't think I'll play a game without a big block of Imperial Guard. The one difference here, though, that some might note is that I'm not running them with great weapons. I've been back and forth. I mean, ever since 1.0, I've been back and forth on this. But even now that great weapons are cheaper by effectively, what is it, half a point, I'm still up in the air. I ran them with hand weapons and shields in this game for points purposes. It's a little bit cheaper for hand weapon and shield and the rending banner. But I think I like it more than great weapons. I know there's been a long running debate on the forums about great weapons versus hand weapon and shield. I think I'm finally of the opinion that while strength 6 is so tempting, unbelievably tempting on an infantry model, not to mention a horde of infantry with hatred, no less, sacrificing parry, a 3-up armor save, and initiative 4 in exchange for that, and to pay more for that, I think it's just too big a sacrifice. So I think for the next couple of games, I'll be playtesting hand weapon and shield, because I've been frequently disappointed with great weapons. I've never been disappointed with hand weapon and shield. There have been times where I think like, oh gee, if only I had strength 6, but I've never gotten to the end of the game and thought my hand weapon and shield Imperial Guard didn't do their job this game, because they always do. So, food for thought. 2 arcane shields, I took both because again I pared the list down. If I'd built it from the ground up, I probably only would have had 1. But what do you do? Volley gun, mortar, which is gonna do nothing against ogres, but it's meant to be an all-comers list, and then a steam tank. So that's my list. His list, as is my custom, I don't have a copy of his list. I'm just going off of memory. The thing is with the Rock-a-Rocks, as I think so many people are now lovingly referring to them. I can't remember if they're character mounts or if they're standalone monsters. And I want to say they're standalone monsters, but I don't know for sure. It's just a question of whether or not he has one character or three. I don't know. He has at least the Great Shaman, who's his general out of Thaumaturgy, who has the Hell Heart, which really negates the need for a BSB, which is cool. Um, he's got a bunker of 5 ogres, 6 Merc vets. He runs the combat variant, which I think is also popular. Not quite as popular as the Brace of Pistols Poison variant, but this is still pretty powerful. So Rending Banner, Swift Stride, Thunderous Charge, and Iron Fists. Big unit of 10 ogres with great weapons. 2 units of 3 bombardiers, the 2 A-Rocks I mentioned. He's got 5 trappers and then 2 saber tusks. So a pretty well-rounded list. It's missing some of the toys that I'm pretty afraid of, with the exception of the dual A-Rocks. And then the 6 Merc vets will be a pain. But interesting list. It's been fun. Brett's I don't want to say a new player anymore. He's a newer player, only in the sense that a lot of the other people in our group have been playing since fifth edition even. But it's been cool because it's been cool seeing him add to his army that he's built very quickly and painted very quickly, um, and just seeing him slowly add one A-Rock, then a second. Now I think he has a cannon and just adding things here and there. It's been kind of nostalgic, I think, for me, from my first army doing the same thing. So I don't think this is even his first army, and I don't know why I'm getting all nostalgic here, but it's been cool, and he's becoming uh, a really strong player. Um, so okay, here we go. So this looks like the deployment picture. This is actually not. This is a picture of the end of my movement phase in turn one. So, spoiler, I get the first turn, and let me walk you through why and how that happened. So, it was around here, and by here I mean imagine no units on the table, that I realized the error in my list, which is that I really have 3 blocks and then some support for those blocks. And yeah, so when it came down to putting my first unit on the table, I had to go with one of my big blocks of halberdiers. So I put one down. He puts down a saber tusk, and then I look at this other unit of halberdiers, and I'm thinking, God, I really don't have a whole lot of options as far as how I'm going to deploy this army. Because if you think about it, Empire players know that, and I guess Ogre players really are the same way. Vermin Swarm, of course, too, that you have to have your central leadership bubble, right? You have to have um, certain units have to be within range of each other to ensure you're getting the benefit of your general and your BSB. As a result, I put these 2 blocks of halberdiers down, and I'm thinking, well, gee, my 2 characters are going with the Imperial Guard. The Imperial Guard have to be behind these 2 units of halberdiers. And then I really don't have anything else in the army that I want off on its own, with the exception of maybe the steam tank, because the artillery off on its own is just going to get eaten alive by things like his saber tusks. And that bunker, that's got to be behind something too, because again, saber tusks, even trappers, could come in and assassinate my wizard. So, or heaven forbid, something like bombardiers. So I've got to hide him too. So as a result, it became readily apparent that the whole army really has to be turtled up like this. Not to mention the fact that I don't want to get in combat with him quicker than I have to. So yeah, it just became very natural. So 2 drops in, I dropped everything because I realized that I really didn't. I wasn't thinking about where I was putting my models in relation to his models. I was just going to be dropping things in a certain order and pattern. And at that point, you might as well try to get first turn. So that's what I did. I dropped everything. The only weird thing I did was I put my volley gun way up here like this. And the reason for that is because I hate having a whole round of shooting with a volley gun doing nothing. So this was obviously a high risk placement for the volley gun. Um, I think in retrospect, even if I'm still running along the same logic, even putting it over here on the other side of the impassable terrain probably would have been smarter. Uh, but all in all, it would have been better to put him back somewhere safe, and sacrifice that first turn of shooting, because it's just anyone looking at this is like, what are you doing, Dan? You're just getting greedy, man. But I really wanted a whole round of shooting at this A rock here in the middle, so we'll see what happens. So that brings us to turn one. My movement phase, I just kind of shuffle up. As you can see, I'm adjusting units to ensure that I've got charge avenues out of here. But as I mentioned, I really don't want to get too close to him, and I don't want to separate my bubble there, so to speak. The steam tank, believe it or not, does move. I move him. I roll him 1d6, and he goes 2 inches forward. But otherwise, nothing happens. As far as magic and spells, I forgot to mention that I roll up through alchemy. I've got 3 spells, so I roll up the 2d6 or 3d6 strength 2 um, magic missile, corrosion, which is the -1 armor save permanently, and then glory of gold, which is the armor piercing magic attack, flaming attacks. My opponent is running out of thaumaturgy. If you didn't spot that from his army list, he rolls up some pretty terrible spells. By which I mean they're just not great against this list. He's got Hand of Heaven, which is the old Chaos Pink Fire out of Zinch, which is the D6+1 strength, D6+1. I love that spell. So he's got that, which is strong even against things like the Steam Tank. All just depending on what you roll. He's got Breath Weapon, which is situational, and then he has the one where we each roll a d6, and whenever he wins by, I take a number of wounds equal to that number, which is good, especially against things like my characters and even my buff wagons. The problem is he's just way out of range. It's got a 24-inch range, so I can just tell from looking at this board and the way he's going to move. There's no way he'll be in range for that spell for the first turn or two. So we'll see what comes. Yeah. So my magic phase, I'm out of range for just about everything. My frame of mind here in the first magic phase is that I want to try to wipe out these trappers between my 2 magic missiles. The problem is my opponent's not stupid. He knows that those are the only 2 spells that are worth getting off and therefore worth stopping. So he shuts them both down, and magic is a bust. But those who may have spotted it already, shooting phase rolls around. Remember, I put this Valigan way forward, and willing to take the risk, just so I can get a whole round of shooting off on that stupid A-Rock. And I misfire. And not only do I misfire, but I do so spectacularly because he can't shoot for the rest of the game now. So that's not a great start. Otherwise, the mortar, it's funny. If there's really not a whole lot for me to shoot at with the mortar. And let me articulate why. I guess the only real viable target is the big unit here with the great weapons. But if you think about it, that's what, 10 hits, strength 3, so I'll need 5s. So with the exception of the guy in the hole, if I hit, and if I'm not scattering back on, 1 or 2 wounds per shot. The rocks are not worth shooting because they're having multiple wounds. And then so really my thought process here, I don't want to go too far. The thought process here is that in my last shooting phase, we're now a turn forward, but I just want to clarify. What I'm trying to do is try to assassinate this stupid saber tusk, because I figure my best bet for the mortar in particular is just points conservation, because there's really nothing worth shooting at. So I figured I want to kill the one thing that may very well kill him. So first round of shooting, I'm trying to take out that saber tusk, and I miss. That's what happens. And the cannon on the steam tank tries to knock out an ogre, and misses as well. So This is interesting. So, I know as soon as he moves up with this A Rock that the only thing I have that can stand toe to toe with it is my steam tank. The interesting thing though is that looking at this distance here, I think it's like 15 or 16 inches. I know that mathematically it's improbable that I'll charge him. I figure I'll make it, like over here somewhere. The All I'm trying to do is hold him up for a couple of turns because I do not need this big old monster in the flank of any of my blocks. Um, I'm hoping I can buy myself time to move my big blocks forward and deal with some of this nastiness in the middle. And I think the steam tank's really the only thing that can do it. Honestly, I don't think my steam tank can survive a combat with this thing, but I'm hoping it'll last at least, 2 rounds of combat. That's all I need. So we'll see what happens. His and this one picture is his whole turn because, as I mentioned in my last turn, his magic phase. I shouldn't say phase, but his spells aren't the best for at least not early game because he's got a breath weapon, which I don't care if he gets off. Hand of Heaven. There's really, I mean, he can shoot at my blocks if he wants, but I'm gonna let that go. And then of course, the one that has a 24-inch range that I mentioned. So he's not in range for anything that scares me yet because he's still backfield. So his magic phase is a bust. He's got shooting with sharp stuff from those trappers, but that's it. So pretty quick first turn for both of us. So on to turn two, someone you guys may have already spotted it if you're not, painting and looking away from the screen, but the steam tank rushes up and misses by an inch, and oh man, that would have been awesome. And you can't even be mad in a situation like that because I mean, look how far that distance is, guys. Like, I mean, I shouldn't have been able to connect there, but the fact that I rolled up a 15 or whatever it was to get him that far, only to miss it by an inch, was saddening. I won't say frustrating because it wasn't, but it was. I was disappointed. Um, Rest of my movement goes like this. So, um, the only thing I really move forward, ironically, is my volley gun, just to get him out of the way for charge lanes, and then to get him in the way of his chaff there. Just It's not really in the way, but it needs to be dealt with. Um, Here's my thinking with this here is I think I'm very deliberately like 15 and a half inches away with everything, away from his blocks, I should say. His A rock there, I know that I'm not going to be able to get a charge on him. I'm just gonna have to accept that someone's gonna have to absorb the charge. My hope, though, is that I'll be able to take the charge um, separate from these units, which is why I'm back as far as I am. So I'm hoping he'll charge with everything, and only the A rock will connect, and that way I think I can deal with him on his own, either through grinding him down or even because if he charges here and then flank charge, I might be able to actually kill the stupid thing and then pivot, turn to face. Yes, I'll take a charge from the big units there, but that's inevitable anyway. I'm just trying to do it piecemeal rather than all at once. So that's my thought process. That's why I'm really not moving. I'm just kind of shuffling around. Magic phase, the one that I wanted last turn, I got this turn. So I cast the 2d6 strength 2 hits. It goes off. Kill a few. The lore attribute goes off, which would have teed up Fireball very nicely from the Red Ring or Ruby Ring or Ring of Fire, whatever it's called. But he stopped that. So a little bit of overkill, but take what you can. They panic and run to where they're at right now. This is interesting. So he charges with everything, as I think I would have too. As I mentioned, they were long charges. He needed a 10 with both units. The only thing that was kind of iffy was the Merc Vets because they do have Swift Stride. And I realized that as soon as he went to roll. I went, crap, they actually might make this charge. But to my surprise, and I think to Brett's surprise as well, the A-Rock failed to charge on this unit of Halberdiers as well, which is probably for the best for him, simply because that's what I wanted. I was hoping for that one monster to make it in, so I could, wail on him for a turn and hopefully kill him. So yeah, he fails with all of his charges over here, which sets up some interesting thoughts for my next turn. And then, of course, his A-Rock makes the 1-inch charge into the steam tank. And then you see the Saber Tusk, who dodged the last mortar shell, is still creeping up here along the corner. His magic phase, he kills off a couple rats. No big deal. That's why I bring a lot. And then I can't remember what happened in this magic phase. I'm going to be honest with you, because it seems like he got every spell off, and I don't know why. So he obviously got off Fireball or Hand of Heaven. Cleansing Fire then goes off. And then, I remember this wasn't due to shooting. He kills off the Hellblaster, the volley gun, with the spell where we each roll a d6. So he somehow got 3 of his 4 spells off, which isn't ideal. I don't think that was from magic. I think that was from shooting. His shooting was a little bit gummed up from even just this guy right here and the impassable terrain. Just made it to where it was difficult to see this unit back here. So only a couple of wounds from shooting, which combined with the magic made it to where I think it was 6 wounds total onto it this turn. So yeah, this goes somewhat predictably. Between all the impact hits, of which there are many, and all the strength 7 attacks from the beast and the strength 6 attacks from the charging guy on top, he does 5 wounds to me. Just as a word of note, and I'm guessing most of you are distracted anyway. I know I like to paint while I'm listening to battle reports, so but Brett counts down, I count up, if you're with me. So the steam tank has 5 wounds on it, and then the Stonehorn A-Rock has 4 wounds left. So I've done 2 wounds to him. He's done 5 to me. So he wins combat handsomely. But I stick because I'm unbreakable, and that's what I do. I'm not optimistic about this combat based on that right there. I'm happy I did the wounds that I did to him. But yeah, I mathematically should not survive the next round of combat with all those strength 7 attacks coming my way. And I've only got a 5 up armor save against those. But it's all right. If I can hold him up there for a turn, that's all I need. So this is the beginning of my turn 3. Let me explain what happened here, because part of it surprised me. So if you recall, his big unit of ogres here was up, I wanted to say like right around here. What I did at the beginning of my turn was I issued an order with my marshal onto this unit here. Now, of course, they can issue orders within 6 inches, and if it's the general, within 12 inches now, which I think was a great change. So he issued the +1 movement on the charge, a +2 movement, or a +1 on the charge to this unit of halberdiers just to help them get into that combat. Brett fled from that charge, which surprised me only because, and believe me, I understand the value of impact hits, but I'm not sure I would have fled that charge and taken that unit out of the game for at least 2 turns, simply to hold on to 4 strength 5 impact hits. I'm just not sure it's worth it, especially considering that against these big blocks of halberdiers, you're going to have to grind them out for a turn or 2. There's just no way around it. I don't care if you get a charge with your Merc Vets and your A-Rock and something clipping on the corner. I don't care. You're not going to be able to get through Steadfast in 1 turn. It's not going to happen. So you're going to have to deal with not having impact hits for a turn anyway. So I don't know. I guess that's the only decision he made in this game that truly surprised me, was fleeing from that charge. In part because, and I was thrilled by it, honestly, because it allowed me to deal with these guys separately rather than all 3 units as a whole. So that's my logic anyway. So what happens, though, is I, of course, fail that charge. They attempt to redirect into the Merc Vets and fail. And then this unit charges first the Saber Tusk that was over here. He flees. And then I redirect unsuccessfully into the A-Rock. So I failed with both. Not terribly surprising, but I do. Magic phase. So let me explain what I do in my magic phase because this is important. Um, Here's my thinking. If I'm Brett, what I'm going to do in my next turn is I'm going to charge both of these units. And again, if you'll bear with me, if you're painting, look up for just a second because this is worth it. If I'm Brett, in my next turn, I'm going to charge with both of these units into this unit of halberdiers, right? Because they're closer and they're already weakened. What I'm hoping to do is in my magic phase to buff these guys up with every buff spell that I've got to make it to where this unit is all of a sudden the more appealing unit of the two to charge. The reason that is of value to me is not only because this is a bigger unit, but also because I think this is still like 14 inches. This distance here between the halberdiers and the merc vets. I'm hoping that the A-Rock makes it in and that the merc vets fail. And that's much more likely with this charge than it is with this charge. That's my line of thinking. So in my magic phase, I throw all my buff spells on there successfully. So it's a beefed up unit. It's getting +2 weapon skill, +2 initiative, flaming attacks, armor piercing. The A-Rock is flammable now. All kinds of goodness. So it's pretty beefed up unit. Not to mention +1 hit from the foresight engine. In the shooting phase, this stupid mortar, who has missed twice now against this impending saber tusk, misfires and can't shoot for the rest of the game. I'm like, gosh, darn it, man! What do you do? It's why you roll the dice, right? 2 in 1 game, but to make up for that, this steam tech, man. So my grind attacks go before his normal attacks. Not that it really matters, but it means that I was thrilled because I thought I was going to be able to get wounds in before he killed me, um, which I did. But then he didn't kill me, in part because he's whiffing on his attacks, but really because I'm making all these 5-up armor saves. I mean, I think he wounded me like 3, maybe even 4 times this turn. No, it wasn't 4 times, but at least 3, and I passed all my armor saves. And that shouldn't have happened. I only have a 5-up armor save. So I actually win this combat, and he loses frenzy, which is huge. Because now he's got, I would say only 5 attacks, but 5 is certainly better than 6. Uh, so yeah, I'm uh, confused but thrilled. So I'll take it. Um, yeah, my worst fears were realized. So he did exactly what I was hoping, which was avoid the beefy unit here, charge into the bigger one. But I kept forgetting that this unit has swift stride, so it really wasn't that unlikely for him to make both charges. So he does, and that's gonna hurt. I mentioned before, there's no way he's gonna get through that unit in 1 turn. I don't care how many impact hits you do. I don't care how many thunderstomps you get. You're not gonna burn through 4 ranks in 1 turn. It's just not gonna happen. However, it's gonna hurt. Uh, so we'll see what's left of that unit to mop up off the ground. This unit rallies, but again, they're going to be out of the game for a turn or two. So, and then again, predictably, that Saber Tusk charges in. We'll see them make fools of themselves here, and the rest of his army moves up like that. So you can see the trappers have moved up the chaff up the big unit of halberdiers there, and bombardiers move up to throw some shots in. Um, Magic phase. I wanted to touch on this. The first thing he goes to cast is the spell where we each roll a dice, and whoever rolls or not whoever rolls the highest, but if he rolls higher than me, um, I lose a wound for each point he wins by. He rolls it irresistibly. It was a low roll, all the same, even with because he rolled 2 dice, double sixes, and then added I think 2 to it. So here's the thing: he casts it on my BSB because the BSB is now in range. I know what he wants to do is cast Cleansing Fire onto his A-Rock, and that's what I'm really afraid of, because that combat's scary enough with the impact hits, Thunder Stomp, stomps from the Merc Vets, and impact hits from the Merc Vets, not to mention the flurry of attacks they're going to have. I'm going to have a hard enough time. But I really don't want a Breath Weapon on top of that. So this goes off irresistibly, but still, very easily stoppable if I throw all my Dispel dice at it. So I let it go through. And this is the most nervous I've been rolling a dice in recent memory. Because it occurs to me as I go to roll this dice for this test that I have to take, that if I roll even a 1 or 2 and my opponent rolls a 5 or a 6, my BSB is dead. In fact, if I rolled a 1 and he rolled a 4, my BSB is dead. Because I've got 3 wounds and no ward save, and there's no armor saves allowed against this. And I think most Empire players, I think most players know what happens to an Empire player without a BSB. So this was a nerve-wracking roll. I mean, my face got flushed. I don't think Brett knew how nervous I was throwing that dice, because I tried to pretend I was nonchalantly throwing it. Very fortunately, I rolled a 6. So he then, it didn't matter what he would roll. He took his miscast wounds. He took 2 or 3 wounds. So got lucky on that. And then he attempted to do the breath weapon, which I stopped with my remaining dice. So, whew. I don't know what I'm looking at here. I think the results of the shooting phase. Yeah, because I think there were more rats in their previous. Yeah, it was like 4 or 5 more. So a couple more rats die. So combat, yeah. If you recall, there were 48 rats in there to begin with, and now there are not. I think that's 22 wounds, if I'm mathing that out correctly. 22 wounds. Ouch. I do a few back to him. It looks like I just do 1 or 2 onto the A-Rock. He was flammable, so I'm rerolling a wound. That unit has the flaming banner. You can tell because this one guy here has a torch. So there you go. But again, rerolling, needing 6s to wound isn't terribly productive. But they end up doing 4 wounds to the Merc Vets. The one thing I had going for me was distracting. The Hurricanum's right there, which is obviously very helpful. But again, all my buffs are on this unit up here, which doesn't help me much at all. But they stick. They do exactly what I was hoping they do. They're steadfast. They absorb the impact hits. And put a couple wounds on the stuff they're fighting. Can't ask for much more from halberdiers. That's the pile of rats that got run over. In combat down here, surprisingly, he doesn't wound me at all with his 3 strength 4 weapon skill 4 attacks. So he whiffs, and then in turn I do a wound to him. So we actually push, where I did a wound to him and he charged me. So I'll take that. Go Gadget Mortar. And then over here, look at this. Look at this. I can't believe it. This stupid steam tank. I do 1 more wound to him, or 1 or 2 more, so he's down to 1 wound now. So effectively taken out of the game, because he can't charge. I mean, he could charge just for the impact hits, but anything he gets to combat with is going to kill him now. So yeah, go steam tank, man. I mean, I just needed you to hold it there for up until this turn, and it's done that and taken him out of the game for me. So, and that's doing no small part to some phenomenal armor save rolls on my part, but those do happen. Just as both war machines can misfire in one game, it happens. It all averages out. That's how statistics works. I will take it. And then this is the beginning of my next turn. So I take the bait here. I figure I might as well pick up those points, since I'm definitely not going to overrun, but I don't think he's going to charge me with his bombardier. I think he'll rather shoot me. And I figure if he's going to shoot me, I might as well pick up some points. Yeah, otherwise I don't move much. I just shuffle this unit forward to ensure that both units are now within 6 inches. So I was pretty careful about that. And then back here, I shuffled that Hurricane back, still within 6 inches. However, I wanted to ensure that if he overran, that he wasn't going to get both units because this Hurricane was flush with the Imperial Guard previously. So, um, yeah, so in my magic phase this turn, it's funny. I don't remember the spells. I just remember my logic in any given magic phase. So this phase, it wasn't about trying to get any one spell off. It was trying to get the attribute onto the unit of Merc Vets. So I didn't care which alchemy spell I got off. I just wanted to get one of them off to ensure that I got that attribute. And I ended up rolling, I think, 12 dice from my magic phase. I forgot to mention earlier, too, that I have plus 4 to my channel. So I'm channeling better than a Slan. So up until this point, there hasn't been a single magic phase that I haven't channeled because I've got my 2 arcane engines, my prelate, and my wizard. So I'm at +4. Uh, so poor Brad, he's like, oh my gosh, man, it just can't catch a break. It's like every magic phase we have nearly the same number of dice. Um, so this magic phase was no different. I had like 10 or 11 dice, and 2 or 3 dicing it at a time. I cast each alchemy spell in succession. And again, he's a very good player. He knew exactly what I was trying to do. So he tried to shut all the alchemy spells down, but he couldn't. I snuck one through. I can't even remember which one. Doesn't matter though. I got it off, and I got the attribute on the unit of Merc Vets. It came with a cost though. Fortunately, I was low power dicing those spells, so irresistible force and killed a couple slave militia there. So no big deal. They're slaves. And then yeah, I got that lower attribute off. That combat goes predictably. I killed the trappers and then not reform, but what do you call it? Combat pivot. Just to square up on those guys. Again, I don't think he'll charge me. And then combat goes like this. So there's a lot going on in this picture. I wish I'd taken one before this, just so I could kind of work through it. But I'll do my best here. So if you imagine the A Rock back up where it was next to the Merc Vets, and the Halberdiers there, and the Hurricane still there. Let me paint the portrait for you, so to speak. So the Halberdier combat actually goes decently for me, um, because I'm at, +1 to hit, and having rerolls to wound against the Merc Vets. So I'm hitting him on, I want to say threes, because it's fours normally, yeah, so +1. So I'm hitting him on threes, winning him on fours, rerolling to wound. So I ended up doing, it looks like 5 wounds to him. Yeah, 5 wounds, 5 or 6 wounds to the Merc Vets. And then it looks like I put 2 wounds onto the A Rock. So go Halberdiers. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. And I couldn't have asked for more from them. They held through one combat and did quite a bit of damage in return, which isn't bad for, whatever, 600 points for a unit. So 300 under the old system. Not too shabby. So, but what does end up happening is because they panicked there and broke from combat right in the middle of basically my entire army. My entire army had to test for panic. This was a nerve-wracking turn, and by turn I mean phase, and by phase I mean this part of the phase, because uh, I actually failed each panic check once. So running counterclockwise here, I'm very careful to do my battle standard bearer last, because I've had it happen before, and once it happened once, it never happens again. But if you test with your BSB first and he runs off the board, all the other units testing do not get the benefit for your BSB. So you want to do him last. So I'm very careful to do that now. However, you'll notice the unit of Halberdiers, the Foresight engine, the Imperial Guard, and the Hurricanum, the Arcane Shield engine, all would have had to test. Halberdiers failed, passed on the reroll. Foresight engine failed, passed on the reroll. The Imperial Guard went last, but also failed, passed on the reroll, and then the Arcane Shield failed and failed the reroll, um, which isn't ideal. He ran off the board. Um, However, not unsurprising when you're rolling that many panic checks, somebody's bound to run, even with rerollable leadership 9. So, again, can't get too frustrated. It's going to happen. And again, I'm thrilled with the performance of the Halberdiers, which couldn't have done it without the support from the Hurricanum. So Hurricanum certainly did its job. Um, the only downside is that those Imperial Guard are so much nastier when they've got distracting on them. Because I've got parry, and then with an additional -1 hit on top of that, it just makes them really, really, really mean. Brett was smart about this. When the Halberdiers broke from combat, remember the Arcane Shield was still there when he was making the decision about whether or not to pursue or hold, and he wanted to keep his options open because remember this is the end of my turn, so he's going next. So he doesn't have to pursue to ensure he gets into that combat with the Imperial Guard. He wants to keep his options open because again, if that Hurricanum is still there, I think that's probably the better target. To charge that, kill that, and then pivot, and then charge in his next turn. Yeah, or even potentially get into a cascading combat situation with the what do you call them, the saber tusk. I don't know. I'm just thinking aloud. The point is, he wanted to have his options open between charging the Hurricanum or charging the unit, which he could just as easily do in his next turn, as opposed to relying on the overrun. So that was the smart move, and that's exactly what he did. The Hurricanum ended up running off the table. So in his next turn, he's obviously going to charge in because there's no reason not to. Uh, Over here, it's another push. I'm just stunned. There's no more words I can use to describe how lucky that steam tank is to still be alive. Because remember, he's only doing 5 attacks to me now, but it's still 5 strength, 7 attacks. I think he's hitting me on 4s. So 2 or 3 hits per round, 1 or 2 wounds, and I'm just passing those armor saves, 5s and 6s. That's all I've got. There you go. So another push. And then this is where things look at the end of my turn 4. So Brett's turn 4, a couple things happen. The only charge is the Merc Vets, predictably, into the Imperial Guard. Everything else just kind of shuffles forward. He's got no reason to charge me. He wants to just shoot me with those bombardiers. I don't blame him. Oh, yeah, and that's exactly what he does. Magic, I guess it was another unprotected magic phase for him. Bombardiers, though, put a hurting on that unit. I think they killed 11 or 12 just from glancing. Yeah. It's like 11 or 12. I don't know why that picture is so blurry. Sorry. Into combat. This shocked us both. Uh, this this mortar that wasn't able to do anything all game killed the saber tusk. They successfully fended it off. So yeah, go team. And then in the same combat, the unthinkable happens. I guess it really wasn't unthinkable once I got it down to 1 wound because I'm doing my grind attacks before he's doing his attacks, and which is fortunate because again, my luck was bound to run out. I was overdue to fail some armor saves. So it was fortunate that I went first because with those grind attacks, that's how I killed him. So, yeah, Steam Tank, man. I just love this guy. And then this combat. So let's back up. There's a lot to digest here. So down in your lower, not complete right, but you see it, the big combat with the Imperial Guard, the AROC, and 3 Merc Vets. Okay? Let's fast forward, shall we? That's what it looks like before. This is what it looks like after. So AROC gets killed, had 3 wounds left, but between, 9 or 10 attacks from the Imperial Guard and the BSB's great weapon, it just got, killed off. No surprise. Merc Vets, they were taking a ton of attacks. Hitting on 3s from the Foresight engine. hatred, so rerollable threes, and then forced a wound with AP2. So put a hurting on the Merc vets too. Funny thing is, even though it looks like I've all but wiped him out, he won this combat quite handily because between all of his stomps, impact hits, and he did get thunder stomps because it was my great weapon wielding BSB who finished him off his last wound. And because it was a great weapon, his thunder stomps went simultaneously with my great weapon. So we got through his thunder stomps before I wiped him out. Um, Long story short is I lost combat. I'm stubborn, rerollable 9. So don't care, but I just thought it was amusing that he's got this one guy with 2 wounds left, and I'm the one taking a break test. So that was funny. Uh, yeah. So okay, this is the top of turn 5. This is important though because it was coming up on midnight, and we both agreed that this would be the last turn, which obviously always affects how you play. So you can see what I've done here is flipped the steam tank around. The halberdiers up in the upper right there charge into the bombardiers just to try to pick up a few more points. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing else to move except maybe I shuffled the buff engine there backwards. Magic phase, really nothing. I think I tried to. Oh no, one important thing did happen. So, but my prelate's in combat now, so I now have his litany of spells to add to the existing list of spells that I've been throwing at my opponent. It was just too much. There's so much variety between the bounce spell from the remaining buff wagon, the 4 spells from my wizard, and the prelate. And the funny thing is, I don't feel overwhelmed by it. You know, sometimes when you take like 2 wizards or took 2 wizards, I don't think anyone really does it anymore. You felt like you had so many spells that it just felt like a waste. I don't feel like it's a waste in this list or in the 6,000 point list because the stuff that is toting these extra bound spells perform other functions in addition to the spells that they bring. So it's not like I'm just spending points on a second slan and he's not casting anything. The prelate is still granting hatred and leadership 9 to my army. The buff engine is still granting foresight, but lightning reflexes to units within 6 inches, which is even without the bounce spell, well worth the investment. Um, so I've got a ton of spells. It's hard to stop them all, and there's some redundancy built in because again I mentioned at the very beginning of the video that the flaming and flammable combination this army has easy access to is tantamount to reroll to wound. So I've got that spell through the prelate, and I've got it again through the flaming flammable combo. Not to mention the 5-up ward save. So my opponent, trying to decide what to stop this phase, basically accepted that I'm going to get rerolls to wound this turn, one way or another. You could stop the prelate, or you could stop the flaming flammable combo. Doesn't matter. You're not going to stop both, and the 5-up ward save from going off. So the call he made, which I think was the right call, was to stop 5-up ward save and let the other ones go. So they get reroll to wound, which didn't really matter for that combat. He only had 2 wounds left on that Merc vet, and I'm confident I would have been able to kill him, but it lines things up nicely for the next turn. Halberdiers go and chew up those bombardiers. They do like 7 wounds to him on the charge or something, unsupported. I was impressed. And then overrun thusly. So they're basically out of the game by my math. Just quick math, 48 to start means 25% will be 12 models, and I think I count 17 in that unit. So not quite half points for that unit yet. They're 5 models away from being there. And then this happens. So again, it's his turn 5. We're in an interesting spot because if you look at the board, again, the bombardiers are gone, his merc vets are gone. I know that his general's a decent number of points, and that obviously that big block is a decent number of points. But as we sit, it's either a draw or a minor victory in my favor if he doesn't charge that unit of great weapons in. Now, because I've still got half points for the steam tank, full points for my Imperial Guard and Halberdiers, and then all my characters, which is a decent number of points. And then he has just the big unit there, his general and the bunker, and one unit of bombardiers, and then that one saber tusk. So I think I've got him on points, but not by much. Like a very small margin victory, if not a draw. So we talked about it and said that in a tournament environment, the right thing to do is to not charge, is to just hold back. If this is the last turn, just take the draw. Especially game one, or even game two, game three, doesn't matter. You pick up a draw where there's a high risk, high reward payoff. You take the draw. It's just, unless it's something like Brawler Bash, which encourages sacrificing your units and stuff to get more points. However, we talked it through. That was the right call, was to hold back, but we said that the more fun call would be to charge in. And so that is what he does. So he brings them in. And yeah, it's they're gonna murder each other. I mean, don't get me wrong, my Imperial Guard are gonna put a hurting on that unit because they still have rerolls to wound, which is what I alluded to earlier. So yeah, hitting on threes, because his weapons go 4, I'm almost positive. So I'm hitting on 2s or 3s. I can't remember which. Depends on if his weapons go 3 or 4. And then wounding on 4s, rerolling to wound, and he has no armor save. So I'm going to do a lot of wounds. The problem is I can't kill them all, and any that are left are going to do a lot of wounds back to me because he's strength 6. So he's hitting me on 4s, but he's doing that anyway, and just carving through that armor. So yeah, that's not going to end well for either of us. This surprised me, actually, because I ran the numbers in my head, and I just thought it made more sense to get half points for the unit. But again, he's setting his sights higher. He moves the bombardiers up. He's trying to force a panic check onto my mage's bunker, which isn't a terrible idea. It's just higher risk, higher reward than just picking up the what would have been easy points by whittling off 5 more halberdiers. So, food for thought. And I'm sorry for that horribly blurry shot, but that's the bombardiers shooting at the wizards unit. Not quite enough for a panic. The reason it wasn't a terrible idea is because they're only leadership 7 over there. They're too far away from the general to benefit from his leadership. So they're leadership 7 rerollable because the BSB, you can see his sword right there on the left hand side. He's definitely in range, just not the general. So rerollable 7. The thing is, I just think that it would have been better to put those shots into the halberdiers. End of his combat, we just obliterate each other. You can see I've done, let me do some quick math here. So he counts down to left, so I've done 16 wounds on, what is that, like 22, 21 Imperial Guard attacks. So 3s to hit and 4s to wound rerolling. -2 to armor. Ouch. And then in turn, the remaining 4 ogres between their stomps and their normal attacks do... Oh, and impact hits, of course. Between all that, they do, 11 wounds to me? So just an absolute bloodbath. He did end up getting half points for the Imperial Guard, though, in that move. It wasn't a complete suicide charge. So, half points for the Imperial Guard, which is no small chunk of change. End up doing the math on this combat, though. It ends up interesting. He's leadership 7 or 8, I can't remember which. Doesn't matter what his leadership is. The crux of it was that he needed double ones. It was not an auto break. He did enough wounds to me that it was to where he was at, I think it was at -5. So I want to say he's leadership 7. We were very careful about the math. I just can't remember what the leadership was and what the negative modifier to the combat was. But at the time, we went back and forth several times to make sure we got the number right because it was clearly important. And we found out that he needs double ones to stay. And what does he roll when he rolls for his leadership check? Here it comes. A 3. So he breaks, and I run him down, pick up those points. And that was the end of the game. So, end of the game, I have half points for my Imperial Guard, all my characters, my militia, my mortar, engine of foresight, and then full points for the cheaper of the 2 units of halberdiers. And then my opponent, all he's got left is and my steam tank, half points for that. All he has left is the bunker with the general, a unit of bombardiers, and then a saber tusk. A phenomenal game. Truly, I know it was a little bit slow paced in the first couple of turns, but once we got into combat there, we just murdered each other. So a true draw in every sense of the word. I know that at the end it probably would have eked out more of a minor victory in my favor. We didn't even calculate points, but again, that was entirely due to the fact that he charged in when we both agreed that it would be wiser not to. But he did it just because it would have been more fun. So I think it would have been a draw had he not charged in. And even with the charge in, the points that he gained back from the Imperial Guard, getting half points there, I think is still even a draw, edging on minor victory in my favor if you look at it that way. But still, hard fought draw, and those are my favorite games. When at the end of the game you look at the table and say, what the hell happened here? There's just nothing left. I remember Mark at the beginning of the game, he looked over, he and Ryan were playing a game at a table adjacent to ours. And he looked over and he looked at my turtle formation at the beginning. He goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Leave me alone, man." And then like turn 3 or 4, he looks back over and says out loud, "That's not at all how I thought this game was going to go." And in full honesty, I didn't think it was going to go that way either. But we just murdered each other and had a blast. And that's what this game's all about. So I had a great time. Thank you, Brett, for the game. As always, guys, as I said in the beginning, um, hit us up if you're down for a game. We're a pretty chill group. Um, yeah, and like, subscribe, both. Don't, doesn't matter. Just happy to have you here, listening and watching along as we continue making these reports here. So until next time, guys, take care and happy gaming.